Professor Bart K. Cardio is bad for you. Bart K and Revival Fitness. This is going to be the video I'm reviewing.
The average person and most athletes, and certainly hypertrophy athletes, should absolutely not do cardio. That's not because you're gaining more muscle fibers. You're not. You're gaining bigger ones by training them to get bigger. That's how you get hypertrophy happening. If you do hours and hours and hours of cardio for years and years and years, the actual heart muscle gets bigger, and it gets so big that it starts interfering with its own function.
Cardio is going to inhibit or hinder muscle growth. That's correct?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Don't do drop sets. That's a dumb idea. Drop sets are about volume, and hypertrophy training is not about volume.
You're gonna
cycling, jogging, swimming, that kind of intensity, that middle zone, stay out of there.
Whoa, this is going to be interesting.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, super intelligent shades of the colour yellow, you're all welcome here, no matter how you might identify. Today my very special guest is Revival Fitness. So, Revival, tell us about yourself, where you come from, what you're all about, where do people find you on social media. Tell us whatever we need to know.
Yeah, so Revival Fitness is not my legal name. You may know that. You can find me on YouTube under that name, Revival in all caps. You might have seen me floating around depending. The people that commonly view your content probably have not seen much of mine. We kind of have different audiences, but there is crossover. You do tend to go in some of the big names in the fitness sphere. We'll probably cover them at some point during this discussion. But yeah, my name is Matthew. I am a highly qualified gym bro. You could say I have a PhD in being a gym bro. Bart, what did you used to call, was it the Wednesday afternoon certificate in basket weaving?
Yeah.
Is that what you, yeah, I
definitely have a PhD as a gym bro.
The training in nutrition, but yeah, nothing formal. So I think I find your content very interesting. You make it palatable for the layman. The reason I kept watching you is because you're so abrasive, actually. People say the same thing about me, but like a lot of the content that you make went over my head initially. It still does, some of it. But you made me laugh, and that's why I kept watching. And it's been a while since I found you. I came across your stuff because I was having an autoimmune problem. I think psoriasis. You know, doctors are like, oh, it could be this or that. Take a green leaf, you know. So I went carnivore for the first time probably a year and a half ago. And within a month or so, my psoriasis, I had spots on my legs, my arms, all over the place, and it just went away. And that's when I was like, okay, there actually may be something to this, because I used to come from the camp of, oh, it's a fad, it's, you know, it's not good, you can't build muscle, it's dangerous, you know, saturated fat's bad, all that stuff, right? So, and I kind of found my way over here, and now we're talking, so.
Awesome. Good. Yeah. I'm a real fan of the cross-pollination. I think we should do more of it, frankly. I think that, it's a good way to make sure that people have the opportunity to find out about others who are out there and about there and saying things and stuff. So I would suggest all my lovely supporters should absolutely go and subscribe to Revival Fitness wherever you can find him, all over the social medias. That would be great.
Support.
I believe the idea is you had a whole bunch of questions you wanted to quick fire at me just so that I can respond off the top.
What fudge you add?
Yeah, so I'm doing an experiment right now. So I just did a bodybuilding show 3 weeks ago or so at this point, and I got down to 155 or so pounds. Very, very slim. I've not been that lean in a long time, and it's kind of trippy coming back from that. But I need to gain a lot of size, a lot of that being muscle mass ideally. A quick background, I've done, we call it bulking, right, mass gaining phases. I've done, I wouldn't call it standard Western diet. I've, more whole foods focused since I've been on YouTube, but never...
Primarily carbohydrates, I guarantee you, primarily carbohydrates.
Being, well, one, I used to think it was bad, and now the main issue would be appetite. But I drew up this plan, and I want to get your thoughts on it, because these are macros that are interesting, shall we say. Quick rundown, I'm going to be eating, well, this is the version 1. We'll probably end up changing it or going through some things. Each day, a dozen eggs from a farm, so they are eating their natural diet. 1 pound of sausage, which is pork, a lot of cheese. roughly 3 tablespoons of butter, 2 pounds of 80-20 ground beef, half a gallon of raw milk, and then some sour cream as desired.
So he actually is doing really well with his macros.
Calories,
Fats, carbs.
6,514. That's 404 grams of protein. That's about 25%. 104 grams of carbs. That's all from the milk and a tiny bit from the cheese. That's 6%. And 400
Those carbs don't even count, bro.
500 grams of fat. That's about 69%. I'm curious your thoughts. Just hearing those. What are you thinking?
Immediately, the
Really
thoughts
good
that come to
macros.
mind. First of all, how tall are you?
Oh, I should have given that. That's right. Okay, so I'm 5'10". I don't know the centimeters to that. Right now, I am
clean, bro.
Pounds.
When I competed, I was. Yeah, that's how lean you have to get.
Jesus, how dehydrated were you?
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Okay, what do you weigh normally? Put it that way.
Right now, I'm about 180 pounds. I've kind of
Right,
stabilized.
that's more like it. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Number one, losing that much weight, cutting that much weight for a competition, I understand why it's done, but it's
Not smart. It's not. I know. It is very dumb. It's true. Do not. If you're watching, do not do that. Do not do what I do. It's very. There's no logical reason to do it.
Yeah, okay. So based on 180 pounds or so, 400 grams of protein might only be very slightly too high for you.
Really. Okay.
I'm a fan of, or your average Joe, around about 2 grams of protein per kilo of lean mass. So, you're not that far over.
2 grams of protein per lean kilo. I'm going to do the math on that later.
Over that mark, and okay, maybe you do need a bit more because of the activity level.
Yeah, that's what I thought. After I'm looking at it, you're definitely
Because the reason I say
not
that is
2 to
at the end
1
of the day,
yet.
if you are a hypertrophy athlete who is doing bodybuilding,
You're still 1 to
how
1.
much protein are you adding to your frame every day?
I don't know the answer to that.
Very little, isn't it? Almost none per day.
Oh yeah. Right.
So to say I need a whole bunch of extra protein because I'm muscle building, not really.
I gotta sell protein powder. You know, we gotta sell protein out here, Bart. You know that.
Well, you got to do something.
Shit, yeah, I'm out.
Going to pay you for your
I
efforts.
got nothing.
Yeah. You're not kidding about that, man. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I was going
It's a big boy. I can't do nothing about it. It's going to run me. Everything's going to get bigger.
I was going to be the best damn YouTuber that there's ever been, and I was just going to make my millions on advertising revenue off YouTube.
Well, yeah, if you're Mr. Beast or you got a million subs, perhaps, but you're a working class YouTuber. Yeah, it's not.
Not doing this for a living. I'm just doing this for fun.
Tax forms, I think, but
Yeah.
All the good
look,
superheroes.
it's less than $1,000 per million views.
yeah, it keeps going down. It seems like because every time they're like, "Hey, we're gonna change this." Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And also, they don't like people who say things like you need to eat meat and not plants, and they like it even less when you say things about other things that you're not even allowed to have an opinion on.
Well, yeah, I saw that you had to scrub your entire channel. I saw that, that's a shame. But I've seen you on Odyssey, some of your old stuff when you get really into it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
But okay, so 400 is over the mark. If you had to give me like a rough gram per day, because like my goal is going to be to probably get over 200 pounds, so I'm probably going to have to do that realistically, keeping it as condensed as I can. Which this is I'll be eating this much for probably a year and a half to.
Revival. I recommend to you that if you want your goal weight to be 200 pounds of lean machine, I would probably do 200 grams of fat and 200 grams of protein, possibly in a stew, like a soup. So that's how I would go about doing something like that. You could do large batches too, and it would be good in the refrigerator. It would be really good.
In 2 years, realistically, like this is not going to just be like few months, snap, because getting that much muscle is not going to happen.
What I would do...
It's not going to happen without anabolism.
I would
Promoting it.
work off 2 grams per kilo of lean mass, either ideal if you were an overweight person, or if you're just an average Joe, you would probably go with your height in meters multiplied by itself, then multiply that by 22.5 for your ideal weight in kilograms.
Interesting.
He wants everybody to be Hercules.
That's an approximation that's good for most people. That's
He's like 20,000 calories a
The other
day.
thing I would do is I would track your blood glucose over time.
I have never
Over.
done that. But you need a monitor for that, correct?
Well, you can either get one of those finger prick, instantaneous snapshot monitors, or in many countries and territories now, you can actually get CGMs over the counter,
Oh, really? Okay.
which can be interesting. And I would track your glucose. If your fasting glucose, I should say, if your fasting glucose is drifting up, you are eating too much protein, almost certainly. And when I say drifting up, I don't mean just a little bit. I mean, if it goes 5.2, 5.3, almost looking like what they call pre-diabetic levels, that's because you're eating too much protein. And the answer is to make the protein and increase the fat.
If I'm correct, that's
wanna
because
do more
I
fat
think I've heard
than
you say
anything.
that excess protein
Fat promotes an anabolic
blood sugar,
state.
is that right?
Fat promotes an anabolic state. Proteins and carbohydrates promote a catabolic state, given the nature of physically breaking them down, breaking them apart to their smaller pieces. Whereas fat is only broken down once, and it already provides the smallest piece with no debris. Most importantly, unless it's an unclean source. Alright, I'm going to skip the
Is
ads.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if your blood sugar gets too high for too long, it starts getting transmuted into triglycerides and stored as body fat.
Now, this is something that's interesting because, I come from the mainstream fitness scene where it's Kaiko parrots. I call them the Kaiko parrots since I've kind of discovered this. It's about the versatile where, calories are counted. They just parrot the same thing.
Without understanding it either.
It's kind of crazy, Bart. Like, I watch some of these people with PhDs, and, I know more than what they do because I've watched you now, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But, so
I think I know more than you, Bart.
Come down to essentially is, if we have 2 people on the same calorie diets, right, even if protein's the same, and one is doing, because typical bodybuilding nutrition is pretty much what I'm doing, but inverted with the carbs and fat. So you hear all the time, it's you want to
Unless
keep
you're an
fat
expert on
as
anabolism
low
and
as,
catabolism,
30%
it's a chemical
of the
reaction.
total intake, and then they fill the rest with carbs. They all say
I
that.
would probably concede.
So-
We would agree.
Given the hormonal changes and other things happening, you can expand on this, but if you had 2 people on the same calories, same length of time, same genetic twins, right? One is high carb, one is high fat, say keto, because this isn't necessarily keto what I'm doing, but it's kind of close, I suppose. You would surmise that the person on the high fat diet would have less overall body fat accumulated by the end of whatever time frame. Is that correct?
All else being equal, and those 2 genetic twins being representative of an average person, and not both genetic twins who are both in some way affected by SNPs, that would cause them individually to respond out with the normal pattern. I guess what you're asking is if 2 identical people did, 2 average identical people did the exact same diet with the exact same amount of exactly the same everything, except in terms of so-called heat units, calories, the C word, except that one of those diets is more fat and less carb and the other one is more carb and less fat, then overall, the best body composition, the best health, the best presentation, the best response to training is going to be in the person who eats the high-fat, low-carb diet if those 2 people both undertook those diets for long enough, because there is also a transition.
Yeah.
Because when they do these kind of studies, these short-term studies, they'll take people eating whatever diet they're eating, and they'll say, right, the research project starts tomorrow, so from tomorrow, here's what your diet is, bam, and they change that person's diet suddenly overnight to something completely different. Well, that completely invalidates the results, because you need to respond to a change in your diet. Your body needs a chance to adjust to that. That's why I'm always actually saying people don't change your diet overnight suddenly from anything to anything else. The reason being, because that will, excuse my French, literally fuck your shit up. Yeah.
Literally is quite literally the most overrated
Literally
word.
is quite literally.
I pay attention to the content. I know.
Good.
Now, we mentioned carbs there. Okay, so can you help me understand where this idea comes from that carbs are, some people will say just they're much better, but others will say they're essential, not even just life, but beyond that. Performance, and this ties into insulin too. Well, I guess I'll ask this as a package question. You hear all the time, gym bros love this. They say, "Oh, you gotta get the insulin spike, bro, because insulin is anabolic," which it is.
Yeah.
But is an insulin spike that you're going to get from just eating a bunch of rice or whatever other carb source? I mean, is that going to produce noticeable, if any, muscle growth in just the normal person, assuming there's no anabolics, PEDs, anything?
Yes.
Okay, so a clean athlete, not on the gear, just training as hard as they can and following the best diet that they possibly can because they listen to the right influences, not the wrong ones. There is absolutely no reason to believe that a hypertrophy muscle building athlete cannot successfully build muscle without getting these insulin spikes from their food. For several reasons. Number one, constantly spiking your insulin is only going to blunt your response to insulin over time. So you might get a short-term benefit, so-called, in the uptake of amino acids because of the insulin, but that will become self-attenuating by the blunting of your response to insulin over time. Secondly, there are a number of amino acids which are themselves insulinogenic. The exact dietary requirement for carbohydrates for all people is not 1 single gram ever, even if you're an athlete, even if you're a hypertrophy athlete. Now, there are folks like Stan Efferding that will disagree with me, and he's got this diet that he's pushing that contains a whole bunch of carbs, and he says carbs are absolutely necessary to be stupidly over-muscled. And he might be right.
He's a big guy.
He might be right in terms of stupidly over-muscledness. However, if that's your goal, to be stupidly over-muscled, then actually, you're not the sort of person I'm going to work with to advise, because...
But the gains, bro. The gains.
Some degree of muscularity, a functional degree of muscularity, great. Some degree of hypertrophy or looking your best, good. Getting up on stage, proving to be the person who can put the most muscle mass on, the biggest beast up there, dumb as fuck.
This is the Tempur-Pedic Breeze mattress.
All I'm saying is this, like, you don't have to do anything other than consume primarily clean animal fats. That's the delineation. You're going to be getting the majority of your calories from unclean sources, then you're going to look like Bart over there.
Shop the Tempur-Breeze collection.
It's with a hair, man.
Sorry.
It is.
You need more hair, bro.
I mean, I made a recent vlog about my show, ranting in the middle of it, like, I can't believe I'm doing this, which I stuck it through, but it's odd. It's a weird combination of, like, it's definitely passion, because it's a passion project for sure. Nobody's making any money bodybuilding. Even the high-level guys a lot of the time aren't. Maybe they'll make
Most
some
of them
money.
are dropping out after their first season because they're fucking deformed and bald.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
But, next question. Okay, have you heard
It really
of Mike
makes me
Menzer?
upset because they could be doing all that natty with
I see
just
clips
high
of he's
protein
getting really
or
popular again the past year or so.
moderate
He has
protein,
a
high
clip where he
fat.
talks about how he talks like this. He's like,
Sources.
well, muscles are
Clean
68 or something % water. Therefore, if there are no carbohydrates consumed, the muscle will not grow or something along those lines. And I've heard other people say that too.
Oh.
Can you explain in more detail, like how much muscle is water and do we need carbs to make that, I guess, see their fullest potential and that type of thing?
The functional part of muscles are largely amino acids, protein. The amount of carbohydrate stored in a muscle is basically very little, almost none in most muscles actually. And while glycogen, for example, is involved in the storage of water in a muscle cell to some degree, if you're looking for that plump look of that really, highly that look, then creatine tends to be associated with water retention in a muscle cell as well. It's not going to help your performance, probably, actually, in any useful, meaningful way, is creatine. A lot of people think creatine is just wonder performance drug. No, not at all.
You could call it like the gateway supplement in hypertrophy in general gym culture. It's the first one we all go on because it's like, oh, it's well studied but
it's also almost entirely ineffective in terms of actual meaningful physical performance feats. It's quite effective in causing muscle cells to retain more water and thus look bigger, but they're not any stronger. They're not any more, And then what you'll do before you go on stage is you'll lose 30 pounds by dehydrating yourself so that you look ripped.
I learned that the hard way.
Okay, so
someone's going to react to that and be like, "Worst case creatine," and then they're going to put up studies or something. But
there are hundreds, thousands of studies about creatine. Absolutely, there are. What you also need to understand about studies is that 95% of everything published in the health, fitness, and nutrition fields is not repeatable. In other words, if somebody picked up that methodology, another scientist, and said, right, let's repeat this and see if we get the same, 95% of the time they get nothing that could remotely have come from the same. You know? Most of everything that's published in this field is fabricated, misinterpreted, nonsense, pseudoscientific garbage of the highest order. These are people that are working in a field pretending to be scientists, mostly, in order to justify their existence and get a salary. I know because I've worked in that industry, among others. Over a couple of decades, I've been involved in academia doing science, doing these investigations and publishing these kind of works. I've worked in exercise physiology, I've worked in human nutrition, and I've also worked in cardiovascular pathophysiology, among other things, peripherally. So those are my kind of absolute areas of expertise if anyone's interested.
I've heard you go at cardio, and this is like the dream for the gym bro because we all don't like to do cardio.
Good.
And I've heard you, this is fascinating because you're like a godsend to us. It's like, wait, he said we don't have to do, because your cardio is good for the heart, you have to do it, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain, I guess, why cardio is, you would argue it's not necessary at all, correct, formally speaking?
I would go further than that, and I would suggest that the average person, and most athletes, and certainly hypertrophy athletes, muscle builders, should absolutely not do cardio. Here is why.
Oh, man.
Probably when you listen to some person that did an undergraduate degree 20 years ago, or even recently, because they're still teaching us in human physiology, will say you have three muscle fiber types: type 1, type 2A, and type 2B, sometimes called type 2X. False. No such thing as in fact true. You have a continuum of muscle fibers that exist from one end to the other. The differences between those muscle fibers being not only the enzymes that are expressed within those muscle cells,
the phospholipid attachments creating the cell lining of the muscle cells. I just love how everybody leaves out inorganic phosphorus as forming weaker muscle cell connections because they have compromised phosphorus in an organic phospholipid chain, creating an ability to attach. But it's okay, yeah.
Those muscle cells like to work.
I agree, though. Hypertrophy is going to cause a lot of muscle injury, especially if your phospholipids
is
are
it light
compromised.
chain? Is it heavy chain? Is it somewhere in between? The diameter of the fibers themselves are trainable. That's how you get hypertrophy happening, by lifting heavy weights, requiring that to occur. It's not because you're gaining more muscle fibers. You're not. You're gaining bigger ones by training them to be bigger. And you train them to be bigger by asking them to overcome the biggest resistance you possibly can. In the case of hypertrophy training, you're looking for 8 to 10 maximum 2 working sets. Big compounds, please. No isolation work. You don't need body splits until you're over 200 pounds. You can do your whole body every time, and you should probably not do that more than 3 times a week, and certainly not on consecutive days. But that's all that's all for another day.
Right.
Guess what you do when you do cardio? Long endurance work for an hour or more at a time, whatever, at a moderate intensity. Those muscle fibers that you trained yesterday to become massive by doing that 8 rep maximum set, you're now training them to get smaller again. It's antagonistic. So don't do it. Secondly, if you do hours and hours and hours of cardio to years and years and years,
now he's talking about muscle physiology.
Your cardiac tissue, your heart, to become hypertrophy. The actual heart muscle gets bigger, and it gets so big that it starts interfering with its own function, and you start ending up with a higher likelihood, it seems, of cardiovascular problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest event of the year.
8 to 10 reps is really all you need. Any more than that, and you're going to be straining the heart, enlarging it, and causing problems down the road.
So from that vantage point, you would say that essentially cardio is going to inhibit or hinder muscle growth. That's correct?
Yes.
Really? Wow. Interesting. So I have a treadmill under my desk here, which is very convenient. I don't know how people go to the gym and walk for 3 hours straight. I'd lose my mind. But I was walking probably 6-7 miles a day for months straight. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this relates to exactly what you were saying, but I noticed by the time I got to my show, my legs looked like smaller by the time I got to the stage. Like it looked like they had atrophied.
All right.
You know what I mean?
That may well have happened, but it sounds like I need to clarify what is cardio and what I mean by saying cardio and don't do cardio.
Oh, is this going to be aerobic and anaerobic, this whole thing?
Well, we can get to that, but
Okay.
what I'm going to say
part to
is training is work that is at your maximum current capacity. So in other words, your 8 RM resistance for any given exercise, that's the way you should pick up and do. Okay, sure, you're going to do a warm-up set, I get that. And then you do 2 working sets, right? And maybe you do an 8 and then a 4 because you're actually doing a pyramid. Don't do drop sets. That's a dumb idea. Because drop sets are about volume and hypertrophy training is not about volume.
People are gonna be commenting.
I disagree with
No, I agree.
He's right,
I tell my audience all the time, but it's about quality, not quantity. Like there's this fixation among you made some videos about Mike Israetel. Have you ever seen some of his recommendations?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Mike Israetel is a fucking imbecile.
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead. No, I don't. I've come to kind of agree with you. Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Doesn't have to be anybody else's, but it's an opinion based on 20 years of experience as an exercise physiologist. Whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't trust Mike Israetel on anything. I wouldn't listen to a damn thing he's got to say on any topic, but that's for another day. Anyway, so that's training. Exercise is incidental movement, i.e. walking. You can do as much of that as you like without probably dragging your muscle fibers the wrong way. That's fine. What I mean by cardio is that stuff in the middle, that zone 2 stuff, the stuff that's like 130 to 170 beats per minute sort of stuff at a steady cadence, cycling, jogging, swimming, cycling, whatever it is, at that kind of intensity, that middle zone, stay the fuck out of there. That's what I'm saying. Walk as much as you like, exercise properly in the gym, quality and not quantity. Stay the hell out of here. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, I made a video a while ago. It's called "Why Lifting Weights is Always Better Than Cardio," because I think just logically, like you get not just besides just muscle growth, you get
weights. You can do anywhere. Pick up a bag of dirt. Pick up a rock.
Other things that come with it.
Go do some yard work.
The next thing too, because I've heard you talk about
cut a tree and carry the limbs.
I kind of came to this conclusion myself. Just even reading my own personal training books, it's like, what do they say? It's anaerobic. You rely on stored glycogen. That's how they commonly define it. Then aerobic is like, you're relying on oxygen. That's loosely it, right? It's like, I don't see how you could do one without the other. It seems like
here's the thing. Again, you know how you were taught 3 different muscle fiber types, and that was completely nonsense? The same is true of, they tell you you've got 3 different energy systems. You've got an aerobic system and 2 anaerobic systems, one of which is the lactic system and the other one is the alactic system. Absolute fucking nonsense. You have one energy system only, and those 3 things I've just mentioned are 3 gears, all of which are absolutely dependent upon each other in a muscle cell. Every muscle contraction of every muscle fiber in your body, of all muscle fiber types, absolutely requires glycogenolysis to actuate and affect the sliding filament theory that causes muscle contraction to occur. No muscle glycogen, no muscle contraction, period. Will not work. In fact, you'll have irreversible muscle tetanus and cellular death within 4.5 minutes, basically. You have mitochondria, which oxidize substrates to produce ATP oxidatively. All muscle cells require those too. If you could magically get in there and pluck out the mitochondria instantaneously out of a muscle cell, it would twitch once or maybe twice, depending on the muscle fiber morphology. Then the glycogen at that stage will be completely worn out, gone, and irreversible muscle tetanus and death within 4.5 minutes of that muscle cell. Do it to all of your cells at once and you'll die within 4.5 minutes. Now, how do we get energy shuttled from a mitochondria to the sliding filaments? Well, that's what the PCR system is. It's the gear in the middle. So, there is no such thing as anaerobic exercise in humans, or any multicellular organism, actually. The only organisms that are anaerobic are organisms that live in the absence of oxygen, single-celled bacteria. Everything else requires oxygen to live. You do not have an anaerobic capacity. You do not have an anaerobic threshold. You do not have the ability to work your muscles without all 3 of those systems plus a few other systems as well that are kind of ancillary to that I haven't even mentioned.
How are you taking on RMS?
We're taking on RMS, one infusion at a time, twice per year.
Because that's a whole other discussion by itself.
Yeah, we're probably already over a few heads, but go ahead.
Maybe.
Hey, we're doing our best, man.
Yeah, yeah. And anyone that wants to comment under this video, shows your physique, bro. Do you even live?
Yeah.
Anyone that wants to comment thusly, I will block you immediately. Fuck right off, you fucking moron. I don't claim to be fit, I don't claim to be trained, I don't claim to be a hypertrophy athlete. I'm not. I haven't been for 20-something fucking years. I'm finished with that. I'm over 50 years of age. I'm recreationally fit and healthy. I eat a species-appropriate diet. I probably should be more active than I am because I spend probably 60 or 70 hours a week doing YouTube and related activities. So
I hear
a lot of
that,
time on this chair. You know, if you think that someone is credible because they've got some muscle mass, and someone that's got less muscle mass is therefore less credible because of that alone, then you, sir, are a fucking imbecile.
All right, you mentioned the species-appropriate diet. I know what you mean by that. Something you probably, I'm sure, have heard this. I wish I had like a legitimate reference to show you, but I saw this on Instagram even today.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in fitness say something along the lines of the human body does not store carbohydrate as body fat.
Right.
Something along the lines of de novo lipogenesis is too taxing, the body doesn't do it. Have you heard this type of thing?
I have heard that. Yeah.
Okay, can you destroy it right now, or
Yes,
whatever
it's
you're going to do
fucking
with it?
nonsense. Completely utter nonsense.
It is.
There is no science to support that claim whatsoever. Of
And
course,
study the Randall cycle and you'll see that they're
create
just talking about shit they don't know.
from excess glucose.
It's like a factory,
Also
bro.
creates glucose from lipids when it needs to do that. Protein can also be used to make either. You have the pathways, we have the technology, we have the capability. Our bodies have been doing this perfectly well, according exactly to the great plan of positive and negative selection pressures for 4.5 million years, it seems, give or take. Probably longer than that.
Where would that idea come from, that the body doesn't store carbs as fat? Because a lot of these same people are, we'll talk about this in a second, a lot of these are the same Kaiko parents, so it's like, okay, well, if you are big on Kaiko, how would any excess you eat not get stored as fat? You know what I mean?
Okay, if you, dear listener, are the person who believes for 1 second that Kaiko, which we call psycho over here, or CICO, calories in, calories out, that whole idea, if you believe that for a second, you're in the wrong place. You need to go back to remedial class. This is for advanced people. Calories have nothing whatsoever to do with human metabolism. Not a damn thing. That's a whole discussion by itself.
It is, but it doesn't necessarily negate the fact that they're important. Like, figuring out your calorie sources and whether or not they're primarily coming from carbohydrates, fats, really leads you to the truth that fats are the main calorie source preferred by the body. This is some stuff we talk about, so...
Really, I've already covered it. It's on my channel. There's a whole
Many times.
There's a whole playlist on it. You can go and check it out to your heart's content. Unless your IQ's under 100, in which case you're probably wasting your time because you won't get it.
I think there's a lot of those kind of people now.
Yeah, there are.
I agree to disagree,
Half the people
but we
in the world
agree at
have
the
an
end of
IQ
the
lower
day.
than 100. That's the whole point. That's where the 100 comes from. That's the average IQ.
Yeah, you seem to be doing all right, you know. But where would that come from then? That it wouldn't store the carbs as fat? Is it the de novo lipogenesis being too stressful? Like, is there any possible mechanism they come up with for this, or what?
It's complete nonsense. People that want you to
It is.
believe a certain theology, a certain bill of goods, a certain idea, will do all sorts of mental gymnastics to try and justify their ridiculous nonsense and to big up themselves and to make themselves important and the man in the field and the bloke that everyone needs to listen to. But my whole thing on the interwebs is challenging these idiots and saying, okay, if you think you're an expert and you think you can defend this hill, why don't you come and appear on my YouTube channel and we'll have a talk about it?
I would.
And it's very, very difficult to get anyone to agree to do that.
I noticed.
That is,
I don't think I've seen anybody with like major credentials actually accept your challenge. 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
Maybe.
In recent times, I've had one person who is an MD and a vegan who wanted to argue with me about that. Where did that go from? That's on my channel. It's called something about debating a vegan. It features an MD called Rogers, his name is. An American androgynous, feminized, beta boy,
Oh man.
vegan cockwomble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who
That's putting it
I
light
absolutely slayed for an hour and a half.
with some
But
discipline.
he's the only one
that
in
he was
recent times
lacking.
to front it up. James de Nicolantonio mouthed off at me, but then ran away with shit in his pants because he was too afraid.
Yeah.
Pathetic
I
James.
saw some videos about that.
Absolutely fucking pathetic, James. You're a fucking coward. Here's a bloke with a PhD, hundreds and hundreds of publications and tens of thousands of citations to those publications, beating his chest, assuming that I don't know what I'm talking about before he actually checked into me at all. And then when he found out who I was, and that I was prepared to face him like a man, actually, and deal with it, he ran away with shit in his pants. So there's one. Lame Norton won't face me. He won't even acknowledge the fact that he's been absolutely eviscerated by me I don't know how many times, for example.
It has to be a dozen, right?
Greg douchebagged at his best.
Oh god, please.
Oh my god.
I from just the Jim Bro understanding have taken him down to the point that it's similar. He will not say my name and he'll talk about anything.
Right.
But on that topic, that's a great segue. Perfect segue.
Yeah.
So I did the math briefly based on I might change the diet up. I'll make this all apparent in my video of this guy once I make it like the full day of eating.
Mm-hmm.
But based on the Kaiko math.
Alright guys, I'm going to cut this short. We got stuff to do, but I just wanted to do a little review of that. I